In this episode of the podcast, we're catching up with my friend, Sasha Leahovcenco. Now, Sasha is an editorial and commercial photographer who also dabbled in weddings until about 6 years ago. 6 years ago, he began a humanitarian project that would really transform his entire career and purpose. Today, he primarily documents his humanitarian efforts, and that's what he does full time. We're going to talk through his experiences. You're going to get to go on a journey with me as we travel through his imagery and through his overall journey of transformation and really adding value and purpose to the imagery that he creates. Let's dive in. This is the TSS Podcast. It's a place for authentic conversations to uncover the stupid, simple truths that help us succeed in business, create better relationships, and lead more fulfilling lives. Welcome to Think Stupid Simple. All right. We have a ceremonial lighting of the candle, the meeting of minds. Dude, it is good having you on the podcast. It's great being able to actually chat with you one-on-one. We haven't talked for a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah, so I'm excited to catch up on all the awesome things that you've been doing. First, I know just from our conversation a second ago that you have kind of stepped away from photography for all the other things that you're doing. But I have to say, I want to pull up your website. Your imagery is absolutely incredible. And I do feel like the world is missing out a little bit on Sasha not taking more photographs.
Well, that's very kind of you.
These are wild, man. Can you walk me through? Is this in Mongolia?
Yeah.
What was this shoot?
Well, the shoot came off of my friend's idea, Kale Glending. He's an amazing filmmaker. So I don't know how he came across that particular tribe of people, those eagle hunters.
Eagle
I think he was
hunters.
in China, somehow figure out a way to get to Mongolia and visit this amazing tribe of people, and then gave him a call, and we chatted, and he said, hey, would you want to come and join me on this trip? I want to film a short documentary. It'd be great to have a photographer also. So we just hopped on the plane, I think, a week later, and met in Mongolia and went from there. So yeah, it's kind of a great experience because Mongolia is a vast country, but if I remember from correctly, they have only 1,200 miles of paved road.
Oh, wow.
It's huge. Yeah, it's, I think, bigger than Texas. So yeah,
Wow.
we flew to the east part and then drove for quite a while with no roads, and then lived with this beautiful people for about a week, and kind of just going along with their life as far as providing for the family and taking care of the kids, and just going eagle hunting and just all this, because it's still kind of it's still an existing tradition, but it seems like it's dying out. So that's another thing which Kale was so excited and got me excited about. It's like, hey, I don't think they'll be around in the next 10, 20 years. And the story which we're working on, and the movie which Kale produced called Onward. And if you see the very first picture on my website of that father with a son, and this is the gentleman on the left actually didn't want to be an eagle hunter. He actually wanted to move to a bigger city, go to college, et cetera, even though his whole family, for generations were eagle hunters. Somehow, I think he if I remember correctly, his dad passed away very suddenly, and out of respect, he decided to continue the tradition of eagle hunting and actually staying in the same village and the same location and kind of honoring his father. So that's and he was also transitioning and kind of showing the tricks and legacy to his younger son. So that's kind of the story we were able to capture.
That's so cool. I mean, what was that like in terms of, had you been to a place like Mongolia before that?
Mongolia, no. Probably that's once again just the scenery, the landscape. It's one of a kind. Like when
Yeah.
we were flying from the capital to this east part of Mongolia, from the top, a little. I mean, I once again I haven't been to Mars, but if I imagine what Mars looks like, that would be it. So it's definitely something different, and people are very friendly, very kind.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a plus.
That's wild. So, from a perspective standpoint, I remember when you were posting those photographs, it wasn't long after before and maybe I just don't know the timeline, but it seemed like after that shoot became a significant transition into what you're doing now, like more humanitarian work. Was that kind of the start of that, or did that change your perspective in any way?
No, that was a different shoot. If you go back to the website, I think they're gonna be a photo right in the middle of this
That's right.
lady.
Yep.
Yeah, and so this is northernmost region of Russia called Chukotka, and these
Okay.
reindeer herders. And I think I took this picture about 10 years ago. So, and I was also kind of out of the blue. I was in college. I just started photography. Probably been shooting for a year and a half, and then I came across, mutual friend of ours, Jeremy Coward. I'm sure
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you keep up with his work. So he started a movement called Hell Portrait,
I
and
remember
the
that.
whole idea, for those who are not aware, is to take a picture of someone who never had a picture taken or could never afford it, print it and give it to them. It's usually he would do those projects right around Christmas time. So
Yeah.
for the family who never had a Christmas photo taken, that would be a perfect opportunity. And the movement kind of blew up. It would
Yeah.
be in literally 50 states, 40 countries, just crazy people just getting together as far as photographers, setting up studio sets and just bringing the people from whoever, it could be anyone, but a lot of those just, families who could never afford those pictures. So I did one, and I used to go to school in Fresno. So I did a project in Fresno and kind of blew my mind because we would have people who kind of reunited just for the photo,
Yeah.
just father and son who never had a picture taken in 20 years. So I'm like, this is incredible. And this is something which also helped me um, in the sense that when I started photography, I'm like, yeah, it's great. It makes me money. I kind of enjoy it. I'm like, there's gotta be a bigger purpose to that. If I'm, hopefully I can call myself gifted in a sense of creativity and photography, I want to use also that talent to give back, to help someone around. So, and that one was an outlet for me to figure out, okay, this is the venue I can use to help someone. Once again, I'm not saving people from cancer, but
Hmm.
at least I can do something which they cannot afford, and I'll do as a gift. I'll do it as something which I can help people with. So that led me to projects just all around the world, and that Help Portrait project brought me to that area in Russia. My friend actually was a missionary there, and he was always telling me, "Hey, you should come and just explore the landscape. It's a crazy part of the world.
Hmm.
I'm sure you'll get great photographs." And when I got introduced with Hal Porch, I'm like, okay, now actually I have a meaning to go there. Not just take a landscape portraits, but also maybe do some meaningful photographs. And the sad part about that area is that I think it's whole Europe and Asia. It's the area with the most social orphans in Eurasia. Meaning,
Oh, that's
when
crazy.
whoever don't know what social orphan is that kids, they have technically parents, but they don't have them for years sometimes. And the reason for that is people are drinking so much there. Sometimes they just abandon their kids and just drink for half a year and a half.
That's
Just
crazy.
crazy stuff. So we would go to those, hospitals and kindergartens, and the kids are just abandoned. They have parents, but they haven't seen them for months and sometimes years. So that's kind of the focus we did, and I still have those photos somewhere. But we did a lot of just those help portrait projects for those kids. Someone who've been in the hospital for quite some time, or in the kindergarten, but they haven't seen, maybe they're like, we would sometimes actually get those parents come in and, do the photographs with the kids. And the reindeer herders tribe, it was probably the craziest adventure I did in my life, because the temperature on average there, we went there in December first time, and an average the temperature would be -40.
Oh, wow.
-40, -50, and it's humid. So meaning like it feels like it chills you to the bones. So we ended up driving on an SUV to the closest village, possibly from the capital, and from there 11 hours in a snowmobile. And so it's open air, -50 outside plus some wind, so it gets cold
on a snowmobile. Holy crap!
Yeah. So that's how we got to that tribe. And once again, I'm when it comes to photography, I don't want to be that guy who gets in your face and want to take a picture and then post it on that website. So with this tribe, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll just be around these people for a day or two, and I just want to learn about them first of all.
Sure.
So that's what we did. For 2 days, we literally slept with them in the same tent, went to check on the deers, went prepared food, drank tea, and it just did the life together. And I came with an idea and said, hey, I don't want to just take a picture of you to have it for me. Actually, I want to give a picture to you. So they didn't really grasp it. I was like, wait, what? Like, we haven't really had any picture taken, but why would you give us a picture? I'm like, once again, maybe if you want to send it to your family, I can take it, because you guys are, 11 hours from the civilization. But, and they became very much open to this idea, whereby in 2 days, they were actually asking me, hey, can we go there and take a picture? Can we go there and take a picture, That's very so excited about it. And I usually have a printer with me, a very portable, small printer. So I had pictures printed to them, right on the spot. So that was also an awe moment for them, because some of them had never had a picture taken, period. So, but and that's kind of the opened venue for me to do more of those projects, and led to more of a, not just, I want to come and take a picture of someone who never had a picture taken, which I think it's an amazing concept which Jeremy created, but also go back and figure, okay, is there like a humanitarian issue we can show through these pictures and this story and this photographs, which might help these people? And that's when the whole avenue of humanitarian stuff opened for me, whereby I started traveling to, I traveled to Haiti at this point, I don't know, probably 7 times. The first time right after the earthquake. Yeah. So, did a story on this orphanage which needed to be relocated because it was damaged. Came back, raised some money, sent it to the nonprofit. Went to, Philippines right after the, typhoon, did the same thing, showed the devastation of the typhoon and all the, damage with the country and the people, occurred, and then brought it back through a fundraiser. Remember, it was in Sacramento, also raised, some money, sent it back, would rebuild the homes, rebuild the, community centers, help people start their small businesses, whatever they lost. So that's kind of the avenue, I think, which I enjoyed the most. And I still, that's the avenue I'm not willing to give up at this point. I can give up photography, I can give up commercial work, but I don't think I'm ready to give up this avenue yet.
Now, is your photography still a part of your humanitarian efforts? Like, are you telling the stories of the people that you are helping currently?
Yes.
Yes.
I try to, yeah. So the last, we started 2 projects last year. One of them, which was actually in my home country, Moldova. My family still lives there. I travel there frequently. With COVID, it was a little different, but nevertheless, I usually go and see my parents twice, or maybe even sometimes 3 times a year. Yeah. So one of the days, my dad sent me some pictures, And it's from this village in the northern part of Moldova where the condition of the elderly was just kind of inhumane. And I traveled from my country, it's like I spent there 19 years, since I was
Sure.
born. But
Are
I'm
these are
actually,
these online anywhere that we could pull up or?
yeah, if you go to my blog and you're gonna click on elderly care facility,
Okay.
the very last blog post, you can see some of those there. No, it's the very first. You're gonna go to the very top. No, just go back
Oh, there it
right
is.
there. Yeah.
Wow. This is an elderly care facility?
No. This is just elderly, how they live.
Okay.
So, and this is, just one of the villages, and we came across this people. And once again, this guy, for example, he's blind, he cannot walk. He live, I don't know how small his apartment. It's literally like a tiny, tiny little room. And this is, his oven, which works as a heater as well because he doesn't have a heat. He's,
Wow.
like it's on a borderline disgusting, but this is how people live.
Yeah.
And the government doesn't give, I'm sorry, crap about these people either. So this lady also blind, doesn't have anyone to take care for her. So like barely, they get any type of support from the government or social worker. They have a social worker, let's say one per village, but they have hundreds of this elderly. So all social work can do the best she can, but once again, she's not going to visit every single one on timely matter, and
Sure.
these people needed assistance on daily basis. So my dad showed me some of these pictures, what he saw because he was, working also on a project there in the northern part. I'm like, what can we do? And the idea kind of came out from some of the people locally, which would be great right now. They suggested that, hey, it would be great to build an elderly care facility. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, never done that before, but let's see. So I brought a good friend of mine, Val, who flew there, shot a small documentary, which you can see also on the blog. And the whole idea kind of came out like, hey, let's build an elderly care facility for this community, because there's 3 villages right next door to each other. They have roughly about 300 elderly. 50 of them are in critical condition. That's kind of what you see. There's not a single relative or a kid, whoever can take care of them. There is no one direct relatives to take care of them. And they have some sort of, either they're blind or they can't walk. They have also physical condition, which also makes it hard for them to do regular stuff, go to the store or take care of themselves, go to the hospital and such. So the idea came out, just to build an elderly care facility. I came back and we started GoFundMe. And at this point, I think we raised a little over $100,000 for that.
Oh,
Big
that's
chunk
crazy.
of money come, from good friends of mine who always, ready to support my crazy ideas. But it's also great to see people in Moldova also
Yeah.
taking initiative and helping. But yeah, at this point, we bought the land in last year, a little a month after we bought the land, and the COVID hit.
Oh man.
COVID hit, and we couldn't do any construction, obviously. So that delayed the process, I think, till September, if I'm not mistaken. So in September, we started building. At this point, if you go on, once again, there's a GoFundMe page there on the website, and you can see the process. But we have the land is there, the foundation is there, the walls are there. We started putting the roof up, I think, last week. So the roof should be done probably within a week. And we hope to have the building done by July this year.
That's wild.
So
So
the,
has COVID extended uh to these elderly people in these villages, or are they fairly separated from all of that? Because I would imagine they would be at most risk for things like that.
they are more risk, but once again, there's so little interaction with these people, because
I see.
and yeah, and through the process, we also started doing like just kind of like weekly help, whereby we have this 50 critical people taken care of. We hired 2 social workers on our own there. So they take care of these people who potentially will be in an elderly home once it's finished. But at this point, we just take care of them on, on monthly, weekly basis, whereby providing some food. The gentleman which you saw on the very first photo, his house was completely AK remodeled.
Yeah.
So first of all, he ended up in the hospital first time I think in 6 years. He even though he literally cannot walk, he's blind. He has a lot of physical issues, and medical issues, but he could not take himself to the hospital. Nobody really cared about him going to the hospital. So we finally made sure that he was in the hospital. He got some treatment for his legs and whatever he could. And meanwhile, while he was in the hospital, we teared down his whole room and replaced the floors, the walls were painted, got him heater and everything between. So that's kind of was the process over the COVID period, whereby we couldn't do any construction, but we can do all the small projects. And meanwhile, repair some home there, take care of the medical stuff for elderly here and there. So, and at this point, hopefully by the summer, the project will be complete.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that the GoFundMe is still active right now. So if we do have listeners that want to participate in this. Now,
so yeah, this is the how, before and after, if you can see.
Oh, crazy.
I mean, once again, it's nothing major, but small stuff.
But that's a huge difference for him.
Yeah, and then if you want to scroll down just a little bit, that's a little up. There's a lady with no legs. Let me see. It's while visiting the first time in.
There
right there. Yep. So just a small story about this lady. So we visited her on the first trip, and she was a teacher for the local school for probably 40 years. Somehow got some disease, and it wasn't treated in time and properly due to the lack of good medical care in Moldova. So she had both her legs amputated. And the prosthetics they gave her, they're heavy. It's almost impossible to do anything with them. So when we visited, we asked her, like, hey, how can we help? And she literally begged. She's like, the only thing I want right now in this world, I want just to be able to walk. And it was such a crazy concept to me. I'm like, man, we dream of, about new cars and bigger house and new pair of shoes and this and vacation, I don't know, somewhere. And this lady right here who gave up 40 years of her life teaching kids and, serving her local community, all she wants is literally just to walk, be able to walk. I'm like, we gotta do something about it. So I reached out to the local clinic in the capital of Moldova, found a really good doctor, and they did prosthetics. And once again, we raised the money for that and help her. So she right now has a very solid, whatever the latest technology prosthetics. But I think it costed us $6,500, to get her literally walking. So those are the projects probably gets excited me the most, because you actually can help some in a tangible way, whereby, in this case, it would just crazy to be able to help someone to walk again, and it's also a power of photography, whereby you just tell the story, you share it with the world, and hope somebody cares about that human as much as I guess you do,
Yeah.
So that's been probably the last year's biggest project.
Well, those photographs that you're creating matter. I mean, it actually allows the person on the other side of the world to be transported into those scenes, those situations, those lives, and to connect with those people. Mm-hmm. So that is, I've talked a little bit before on the podcast that, if there's tiers and levels to kind of the meaning of a photograph, that is the highest level. That is the ability to actually bring us to these places where people are struggling, and to move us to act and to help. Wedding photography is kind of here, This is like way beyond this. This is, goes to journalism, and I'm very curious from a psychological standpoint of how has this changed your perspective over the years? I mean, I've had a lot of crazy experiences, and I would say you've had 10 times more. But how has your perspective changed through each of these?
When I started in this project, usually you would come with the concept as far as, hey, I'm gonna go and help those people. I'm gonna make their life better. I'm gonna take pictures of them, and they're gonna be changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very
I'm
Western
dreaming.
mentality of looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the end of the day, the person who gets changed the most after this trip is me.
Yeah.
You look at the humanity different. You look at just reval. And there was also a great point in my life whereby, because I came from, was born and grew up in Moldova, which is still considered to be the poorest country in Europe. So I didn't have a lot growing up. But once again, I never really noticed that, because my parents did the best to provide for me. And I never saw that I lacked something, like Coca-Cola was a luxury for me, but I never thought that, that's a normal thing which people drink on a daily basis, let's say in other part of the world. For us, it was like, okay, you drink Coca-Cola only on Christmas and, New Year's. That's it. You don't drink it on a daily basis because we couldn't afford it. But when coming to States, all of a sudden, you make all this money, So I was working night shifts at this call center, and I would get $5 from working from midnight till 7 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I was doing okay because I could go out on the weekend and have a pizza and, go to the cinema maybe once a month. So, and then I'm moving to States, and all of a sudden I'm making $10 doing construction work. I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of money,
Yeah.
And then I got into photography and doing all of this stuff, and all of a sudden, all this money coming in, like whereby I used to make $150 a month. Right now, I can make 2, 3, 4,000, a month doing, photography.
Just, yeah.
So it got me in this mentality of like, I need more and more and more and more, which is not bad but this is the only thing I was living on, just financial aspect. And this project, I think, realigned me back to like, okay, I used to be okay with $150 a month.
Yeah.
How come I'm not okay with 3,000 right now?
Yeah.
And I still greedy to more just for the personal sake of it. Thanks. So those projects kind of got me back on track. Of like, okay, there's something more than financial aspect of your life. There's this idea of giving back, and honestly, it fulfills you the most. Because even, if you remember, growing up as a kid, the best thing for holidays, you'd love, us as a kid, I think, I'm not the only one, but we love getting gifts, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the best thing you can do. And right now, you as a father, I'm sure you can, I don't have kids right now, but I'm sure you can tell, but the best thing you can do, or you get the best fulfillment, is when you give gifts to your kids.
For sure.
Or maybe your parents or your friends. You don't get that fulfillment from receiving the gifts at this point.
Correct.
Because I think once we grow up, we figure out that the best thing you can do in life actually to give someone something, to give a gift, or to present someone who's. And I like this quote. I'm not sure who said it, but the idea is that it says, "You haven't lived today if you haven't done something for those who will never be able to pay you back."
Interesting.
And it's not necessarily like just do for the sake of giving to someone who will never be able to give it back, but the idea of just living that life whereby you want to help those people, and you'll never be able, and you're not going to be expecting anything in return, because that's the biggest gift you can do, and that's the biggest gift you can receive as a human, by giving back to helping someone and not expecting anything in return. And those projects helped me realign my thought process to that, like, okay, the way for me to grow as a human being would be to just to give back. and not just to give back, but give someone who will never be able to give me back and not expect anything from them. And that's kind of the biggest fulfillment I got in through those projects, whereby I was able to give something or to gift someone and not expect anything in return.
So I have to ask this from, and this is going to be maybe a little bit of an odder, it's on topic, but a little bit of a different question.
Hmm.
When I hear you describing this, I can literally hear your sense of core values shifting through each of these experiences.
Hmm.
So are did you find that these experiences kind of created disconnects between existing friends and make you kind of push you towards friendships that maybe think on a more similar level? Because I would think it would be really hard to relate to a lot of people that maybe were part of like your past when you have this kind of set of experiences now.
100%. Yeah. It tightens your circle because all of a sudden you are excited about things for some people with just odd, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Even through photography circles, it was like, hey, how much you can make of the weddings, per year. And for me, I'm like, okay, I can make this amount of my weddings, but I can take 3 trips and I need 20,000 for each trip, and I'll pay out of my pocket because I believe in those causes. So
Yeah.
that created a big disconnect, and some of those friendships, which once again, but the friends who stayed or I discovered throughout the years are probably my still biggest friends and biggest supporters,
When
and
these are ones that not only understand, but I would imagine your closest friends are people that want to either help or be a part of what you're doing.
yeah, yeah. And majority, honestly, majority of the projects which I did, um, quote unquote, sponsored by very tight group of people, you know. And I always tell the people, I'll never ask unless I put the first dollar in, and that's always been my mentality on those projects. If I'm I don't know, raising money for people in Thailand or Philippines, whatever the project I did, I would be the first to put a dollar in the project or whatever the amount is, and
Hmm.
then I'll ask my friends. And usually those friends, through the years, there was a selected group of friends who constantly kept showing up and helping, and it became to the point whereby they don't really need any proof at this point, like where I spend the money, how I spend the money. They just gonna transfer and let me be responsible for whatever I think is fair to do in that country or this project and so forth. So yeah, it became. But once again, those people also encourage me. They sometimes the way they give, because this is something I care deeply in the first place, but for them to give sometimes big amount of money
Yeah.
inspires me. I'm like, okay, I can step up my game also in financial sector, just not just. And in the end of the day, that's why I started probably working more towards the business aspect around the photography, because when I started doing the small projects, and when you go to, I don't know, Uganda, and you see all these orphans and kids who need some medical care or some food or just basic necessities, and then you come back and tell the people, and they're just like, okay, there's
Yeah.
absolutely no compassion or support. I figure, okay, first of all, um, it, I cannot judge those people. That's out of the picture. This is something
That's
I
really
care
hard not to,
deeply.
though. I mean, that's difficult. It's easy
Yeah,
to say.
but I think I learned not to, because once again, we're all human. We all think differently, and if this is something which I believe God put in front of me, it's for me to take care of, and not
Hmm.
for the neighbor, not for my friends. It's literally for me to take care of this issue. So I decided, like, I need to figure out a business whereby if nobody else cares, I'll be able to support those causes myself. And this is something which I've been working on for the last 6 years, where like, and my probably the biggest support is my brother-in-law, Ross, who pretty much on every single project I do. And
Yeah.
at this point, we kind of do everything together, all the humanitarian project financially. So I've also, that's why I switched a little bit from full photography, whereby I'm like, hey, I want to put in the time in the business and grow something whereby I can do nonprofit stuff, but also be
Sure.
able to financially support it.
Sure.
Because in the end of the day, nobody will care as much as you will. And I don't want to be that guy who just takes pictures, but not be able to help financially as well.
When ultimately money is the way that you affect change. I mean, the
Right,
photographs can relay the message, but ultimately people need to step up, and the way to do that is financially. So
right.
I had that conversation with someone else on the podcast, Benjamin Von Wong, and we were talking about Ben was kind of in a place where he was thinking that, I want to do more than just inspire change. And I go, well, that's kind of all a photograph can do is inspire change. If you want to actually affect it, you need money. So there has to
Mm-hmm.
be that has to be a piece of your plan, is like, if you want to step beyond just inspiration, you have to figure out some way to generate revenue to actually go and do the thing that you're wanting to. Otherwise, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
okay with simply inspiring change and hoping, that it comes about.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of where I've been for the last 6 years. Because I saw, un- yeah, unfortunately, very little amount of people care, and um, I would literally do experiments. Sometimes I would put a photo with from one of the projects, and then send a link to the GoFundMe, something like that. I would get 10 likes on Facebook, and I would get it. Put a stupid selfie, and I would
Yeah,
get 100 plus. I'm like,
yeah,
really?
it's wild, dude. It's
Yeah.
wild.
So, but in the end of the day, yeah, you figure out a good circle of friends who are as passionate as you for those causes and helping, little you can humanity, and then go along with that and try to do the best you can.
Yeah, I can see the side of commercial photography, of wedding photography, of pretty much anything that's not associated to this. I can see that losing meaning and value through the process of these experiences that you've had. I mean, you come back
Hmm.
and you are trying to affect change and build a care home in Moldova, and you've gone to Russia and all these different places, and to be standing there while a bride or groom is completely lost in themselves, and not even appreciative of the things that they have. They just kind of have these expectations and demands and they have no clue. They have no clue what exists outside of their world, basically. That,
Hmm.
as I play it back in my mind, sounds very frustrating.
Well, once again, I love those experiences. I love shooting weddings. It was a
Yeah.
fun when it was a fun wedding. It was a challenge for me. I love getting to know the people. Honestly, I enjoyed it a lot. I still do when I get to a chance to shoot here and there. Commercial stuff, same thing. Meeting interesting people. Professional athletes, whatever it is, and just getting there photographed. As a photography was always kind of a competition with myself to
Hmm.
get more creative, to deliver a better product. It was never honestly about the money. I never saw photography as something, okay, how can I make more money? For me, it's like, I'd love to get as much gigs and weddings as I can, but also I want to get the best product possibly, not just for the client, but also for myself. Because
Yeah.
I also saw that as a challenge, for myself. Like, I want to deliver the best product possible. I want to deliver something which people are going to look at it and say, oh, wow, like, how did he do that? You know? So I love the aspect. But with the humanitarian stuff at this point, also in a way of a challenge when I do photography, I just don't want to just snap a photo. I want to create the most beautiful, I guess, best looking lit photo of whoever I'm photographing. So
Sure.
I want to respect that person with the best photography skill I can possibly produce. but also through that deliver a message, to the world, and hopefully somebody will care about that cause or human, and be part of the change.
Yeah, it's an interesting process that you're going through, and I feel like in some ways I can relate. I haven't sat on a snowmobile for 11 hours going through -40. Um, that seems wild, and I have questions actually on that whole thing beyond this. But what I have experienced personally is, over the years, it used to be enough for me to go in and document a client's portraits and their wedding, and to make a difference in their individual lives. I felt like I could do that, and I could do it well, and that used to be enough. And then when I started really getting involved in teaching 10 years ago, it became more so of how many more lives can I help and change through empowering others to do the same thing. And then over those years, it became, now I want to take this knowledge and frameworks and go outside of photography. I want to affect, relationships and business and creativity and broad subjects, and write and spend my time in teaching and inspiring those subjects. And each step along the way, the original thing became a little bit less meaningful. It became, I had to tie a person's portrait session or wedding to those bigger purposes, to the point where I was essentially like, I've written this book on relationships. Well, to keep myself motivated, so many of the case studies and things that I'm observing actually came from the clients that I'm photographing. And I've, of course, removed all the, personal details, but I treated each client as a psychological case study of like, to do and not to do. And that fulfilled me in the sense of like, this is going now towards a bigger purpose, because just the one thing wasn't enough anymore. Just the one piece. I wanted to do something more. I don't know if that's with age or what it is, but I can very much relate to that feeling of this loss of value and seeking to do something that has greater purpose.
Yeah, and those experiences fulfill you the most, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me, going back to this shoot in Russia, I had a chance to do a shoot up in Banff at -25. There are a lot of considerations to make when you're using equipment in those kind of weather conditions. What was that like in preparing for that trip? I mean, did you even have the clothes that you needed for -40?
A quick question before we go on.
Oh,
Are we
hold on
talking
one
Celsius or Fahrenheit right now?
Anthony's chiming in with a question of his own.
I think -40 in Celsius and Fahrenheit is the same. That's where it kind of collides. I think -40, -41, and then it also, but the lowest we experienced, I think, was -62 Celsius.
Wow.
I'm not sure what is in Fahrenheit, 62 or 64.
That's wild.
Well, the clothes, no, I didn't have the clothes. So what happened, we came semi-prepared. We had some of the stuff, kind of the best gear you can possibly get for, let's say, U.S. winter somewhere in Alaska.
Yeah.
So I had a onesie, which was supposed to keep me warm to probably -30. And then we had some boots also, which were the humongous, but I guess that's the best, kind of like a little bit of snowboarding boots, but full of, good stuff.
Yeah.
When we got there, we figured out there's no way, I can drive for 11 hours in the open sled, with that stuff. So what the locals wear, and it's a crazy lifestyle which they have. So the reindeer herders, all they do is literally they live off of a deer. So they live under the deer skin, they wear the deer skin, they eat deer, they herd deer. So the clothes they have is 2 layers. One with the deer skin on the out, so pretty much the fur inside to the naked body, and the skin outside. And the second layer, it's vice versa. The leather to the first layer and the fur to outside. And that's all they wear. And that thing is bulletproof. So what we had, it's literally a couple of layers, whatever, like, underlayer, something else. and we would put this big, what would you call it? I guess a jacket,
Like a big parka.
reindeer
Yeah, reindeer
leather
parka.
jacket. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that would kept us warm. Yeah, so that's the only thing which actually works in that type of temperature and humidity.
Yeah,
And
there's nothing you can shop to buy for
no,
-60. There's
no,
no.
no.
That's
And those
wild.
people, just it's not that they stay inside all the time. They actually are outside taking care of the deer. Some of the herds are huge. Some of them are like 10,000 deers, and
Dang.
they move from place to place every 2 to 3 days because they dig up the snow, whatever they find in the ground, so roots or like remaining in the grass, whatever it is. That's what they eat, and then they can 10,000 deers. Can you imagine how quick they can eat whatever it's in that
Yeah,
part
that's
of the
insane.
lot, and then they have to move them. So they pack up everything and they move.
So they're
and
nomadic.
reset out their tent. Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
crazy. Now, was your equipment actually working in -60?
no, it did not.
I was
So
gonna say.
while we were there, there was one day out of 3 days we stayed with those people, and it was -35. I'm like,
Okay.
guys, this Miami Beach weather. Let's go outside and shoot. So that -35 actually works just fine. The shutter is very slow, obviously.
Yeah.
The battery lasts also for probably 40 minutes and then die. I mean, I
Yeah,
was using
it kills
Canon gear.
batteries.
I remember, I think I had 5D Mark II, which died on me, and I had 7D as a
Yeah.
backup camera, and that's what I shot everything on. At 7D, I had a $25 umbrella, and a Canon speedlight flash. And that's what I
Wow.
was doing. And once again, at that point, I'm very inexperienced photographer. I barely know off-camera flash, some kind of experiment. I still remember how I shot those pictures, and I cringed because it was like kind of the umbrella right behind me, straight flash. I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks horrible. But they turned out okay.
No,
So
I
the
think it turned out
speed
great.
light, yeah, speed light worked just fine. 7D worked just fine. And what I had to do is pretty much kept the gear outside,
Yeah.
because if you bring the camera from minus even 35 inside, that's it. It's
Yeah.
full of
Humidity.
humidity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would keep the gear outside and just put the batteries inside. That's it.
Yeah, I
So
remember
that
in
was the
Banff,
process.
I couldn't even get my flashes to power on in Banff, and then the battery life, like you said, is cold weather saps lithium ion batteries.
Yeah.
So you get maybe 30%, 40% on a full charge. It acts like as if there's only 30%, 40%, and then mirror lockups. It was wild to me. Like I was like, I don't. This gear is not designed for, and it got up to -30 where I was. But that's not -60. So I was like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, how do you even get your gear to work at -60?
Yeah. Honestly, like, it's once again, after I came back from that trip, I started Googling, and there are actually multiple ways of keeping there's like all these packs which you can just set up around the lens, around the camera, and keeps the camera semi-warm. So, and I tried it after, and it works. Because the biggest problem, I guess, those, I don't remember what the technology offers right now, but those cameras, the connection between the lens and the body, that's where the problem was.
I
So
see.
when the camera stopped working, it's not because it better or something else. It's just because it couldn't recognize the lens.
Yeah.
So, but if you would put the warm packs around that connection right there on the lens, you should be good.
Well, I would imagine any camera that has an overheating problem would work perfectly at -60.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. So now you've moved on, and now you're doing your humanitarian work, but you're also doing projects with Ross, your brother-in-law, who's also a friend of mine. What are you guys working on now?
Well, as far as the business-wise is the same. Ross started a company called Flow Agency 11 years ago, and I joined forces probably 8-9 years ago.
Okay.
And it's pretty much is WordPress themes and also Squarespace themes for the photographers for the websites. So that's kind of the project, and the business we've been working on for the last quite a few years.
Yeah.
But I was telling that Ross more of join the humanitarian part of what I've been doing, because he'd been hustling for a long time and then finally had some extra time whereby he got back and started working on the project. And, the Moldova project, it's very mutual. He's there, so he's hands-on, he's helping financially and whatever he can. And every single project I did in the past, for the last 6 years, he's been a part of, from Philippines to Thailand to Lebanon. This is also a very recent project. I've been going to Lebanon. Well, you're also, where are you?
I'm Iranian, but close by.
Iranian, yeah. So I'm sure you're very familiar with the crisis in Lebanon.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I've been going there for the last 6 years. And I also came across this nonprofit, and they've been working with Syrian refugees. And a friend of mine told me about it and said, hey, would you like to go and check it out and maybe do a documentary on it? So again, I grabbed a friend of mine, a videographer. We flew in, did a small documentary, and this crazy guy, Mohammed, who literally been working with, Syrian refugees for years.
Can we pull this up on the blog as well?
Yeah, what would it be? Let me check.
I like giving these. Or I think you can type in that search right there.
Let me see if I have it. That would be a good one. I don't think I have it on the blog, to be honest.
Okay.
Let me check. Oh, if you go to portfolio, there's going to be a category Syrian war refugees in Lebanon. The girl was holding the kid.
There it is.
Yeah, that's them. So these so these are
so much
Syrian
more.
refugee camps.
Yeah,
in Lebanon. And probably not a lot of people know, but Lebanon is an interesting country because every third of the person who live in Lebanon is a refugee. It started all the way back from Armenian genocide. A lot of Armenians moved during the whole horrific period of time to Lebanon. And then you have a wave of Palestinian refugees who came along. And then right now for the last, 12 years or so, Syrian refugees. So it's a very, very diverse country, but also from what you can tell, very open to the refugees.
Is this just a cardboard? Go back to that, Anthony. Is that a cardboard?
Yeah,
what is that?
it's a cover of the tent where they live in. So this is about 10 miles of a Syrian border. And I tried actually to go to Syria a year and a half ago. I got to the border and I had obviously with the US passport, there's no way they let you in, but I still have Moldovan passport. They held us on the border for probably 2 hours and then they told us to walk back to Lebanon. So they didn't like us. But this is kind of the condition people live in. So that's what we've been doing for the last 6 years. I've been, trying to raise some funds, just whatever we can with Syrian refugees. Last year, we did actually a camp for Syrian kids there. And this year, the gentleman I'm working with who runs a nonprofit there, as I mentioned, his name is Mohammed. He ended up purchasing an old abandoned hospital. And right now we're in the process of remodeling it. And it's in that area where probably to the border. Yeah, probably an hour from Syrian border. So that's kind of a concentration of Syrians. And the problem with Syrian refugees, they cannot legally work. The Lebanese government does not allow them to work in the country because pretty much they're taking jobs from the Lebanese. So they rely on humanitarian aid, and as far as the money-wise, there is a very limited amount of money they have, and the medical system is also very limited to them. So he decided to buy that specific hospital or abandoned hospital just so he can create a clinic for those who most in need. So yeah, so that's also been part of this year and last year, whereby right now I have a good relationship with a lot of nonprofits in Germany. So once again, it's not really photography related, but we put in a container full of medical supplies, and right now they're literally collecting all over Europe, from medical bags to dental chairs to whatever it is, and we'll be shipping probably in a month and a half to Lebanon to kind of start pushing things with that hospital. But once again, it's all started literally with that trip and photos like this, which you saw, which I took 6 years ago, and then it led me to right now. Hopefully, we'll be able to finish the hospital in a year or so and have that available for all the Syrian refugees. So that's exciting part for me, whereby it all started with photography and very limited financial help I can provide, to whereby right now I'm in a position whereby actually I have good connection with the nonprofits, and I can provide also financial help, but also use my resources to get them whatever help they need, and with whatever resources I have at this moment.
Yeah, it's crazy as you're talking about it. You can speak about it, and I'm watching you and I'm listening to you. But when Anthony actually shows the photographs as you speak, you can very much feel the power in a photograph. It transports you into that moment. And I love the way that you are an incredible photographer. I love the way that you've taken your art and your skill set into a place where you're making such a significant difference. It's wildly impressive, my friend. And I'm committing to, with any of these new products that you have, I didn't even know that you were doing all these things, so I need to be a better friend. But with any of these new projects, please share them with me. Send me a DM, and I will post every single one of them. See if we can get more donations to these causes.
That would be great.
Yeah. Well, I've appreciated catching up with you, Sasha. It's been amazing. It's been so crazy seeing your journey over the past 6 years, and I can't imagine. You're only 30-something?
33.
33. So
yeah,
you're just at the beginning of this journey. I can't imagine how much more you're going to do. Side note, Are you married?
Yes.
So one of the things that came across my mind is just like safety. Like your wife's okay with you kind of going to war-torn countries and Russia and -60 and all these places?
And though some of the projects took place before, so she was aware of what she was signing for.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's very much supportive in all the projects, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, she went to Lebanon with me the other year, and I mean, obviously she's been to Moldova multiple times at this point. But yeah, she's very much supportive of all this endeavors.
That's so absolutely critical for what you do. So that's amazing.
That's true.
Well, all right, brother. For those that are listening, we have your website. We're going to link everything in the show notes, as well as the description on YouTube. Please be sure to follow Sasha. I will also be linking every one of his GoFundMes and every one of his new projects and ventures. I can't think of a better person to back and a better project to back than these. So thanks, Sasha, for being here, brother.
Thank you, brother. Good catching up.
Likewise. Okay, we'll see you.
Bye.